And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Three Girls in Love channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we're going to talk about open marriage. Let's see. So we've got different things going on here. Let's see. First of all, why do I choose this topic? This is going to be an article. I'm going to read it out loud. You're going to read along with me if you want to, and if you see anything on the screen. If not, you'll just listen. And I want to go through this because this is where the world is going. We got to understand, the past, present, and future. The future is going to be amazing no matter what, eventually. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. And what I mean by this is that we all, together as a society, we will always move towards the truth. Eventually, we'll figure it out. My definition of the truth is that which works in the long run and in the big scheme of things. So if you think about truth, we always get to the truth because humans are very curious about that which works. We're very curious about figuring things out. Figuring out if something is duplicatable, something can be applied by billions of people and it still would be working. Okay, so that's what we're all about on this channel, and helping women to realize and understand relationships, understand themselves, understand men, understand masculinity, femininity, the polarity of those things. And part of that journey is understanding what's happening to marriage, what's happening to the world when it comes to relationships. And I started reading this article and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop reading and I just want to react to it live. And so that's what I'm doing. And if you find any articles or any videos that you'd like for me to respond to or react to, then please comment down below and send me those links because I'm fired up about this. This is a new thing of me reacting and responding to stuff, and I think you might enjoy it more. So let's get going. Let's see. What open marriage taught one man about feminism. Okay. As I write this, my children are asleep in their room. Loretta Lynn is on the stereo, which is probably his daughter, and my wife is out on a date with a man named Paulo. All right, interesting start. It's her second date this week, her fourth this month so far. If it goes like the others, she'll come home. Okay, let's see. In the middle of the night and crawl into bed beside me and tell me all about how she and Paulo had sex. I won't explode with anger or seethe with resentment. I'll tell her it's a hot story and I'm glad she had fun. It's hot because she's excited and I'm glad because I'm a feminist. I'm going to explain all of these things. I'm going to go in depth about what's going on here. But we understand now that he is a feminist. We understand now his woman is sleeping around and it doesn't seem like he is. Okay, so that's fine. Because my wife started sleeping with other men, I certainly considered myself a feminist, but I really only understood it in the abstract. When I quit working to stay at home with the kids, let's see, I began to understand it on a whole new level. I'm an economically dependent house husband, coping with the withering drudgery of child rearing. Now that I understand the reality of the situation, I don't blame women for demanding more for themselves than the life of the housewife. Okay, so let's just start there. What do we teach on my channel? Okay, we teach about monogamy not working very well for women, especially, but also for men. We teach about Three Girls in Love responsible polygyny, which is basically that women are in their feminine state and men are in their masculine state. And we gradually gravitate exponentially towards those roles, meaning that women find joy and happiness in femininity and in feminine roles, meaning housework, taking care of kids, and doing all those things because they're not alone. Okay, you gotta realize that one. Women are social creatures. They want to spend time with other people that are like them. And children are not like women. Okay? They're feminine, but they have a lot of needs and they're not relating with the mother. The mother's the one who has to help out and do this and do that and all of the time, pretty much forever, okay, or at least until the kids are grown up. So in monogamy, it's drudgery. So women don't want to be in the home because it sucks. It sucks to make food 3 times a day and be continuously in the kitchen because she's alone. It sucks being in the home, taking care of diapers, taking care of kids, making sure that everyone is safe and being all over the place and being a super mom. So women very often don't want to be in the home because it's lonely, and they get depressed because they don't have anyone else that they relate to because they're social creatures. So they end up choosing going out into the workforce and becoming more and more masculine. Okay, so masculinity, the definition for masculinity is being burdened, okay? Having more and more responsibility and desiring more responsibility. Okay, that's masculinity. And being unburdened is femininity, okay? Not wanting to have burden, living carefree, and being social with other people. So you have that aspect of things. So what's happening now in this article is that the man is choosing to be feminine. Like, it's actually a literal choice. He's an economically dependent house husband, and he calls it coping with the withering drudgery of child rearing, meaning it's drudgery and he is withering away. Okay, so it sucks. But it sucks also because he's feminine, but he still has masculine tendencies. Okay, just his sperm production alone makes it so that he wants to do masculine things. But he rationally saying in his mind that it will be good for me to see things from a woman's perspective. And now he's taking that to the nth degree and seeing if that works. And for him right now, it's working a little bit at the same time as he hates his life. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, he doesn't blame women for demanding more of themselves. Okay, well, more for themselves than the life of the housewife. At least he doesn't blame women. That's a good thing, right? We don't blame women on this channel because we understand that very often they we want to understand women, okay? Instead of seeking to be understood as men, we want to understand femininity. When we understand femininity, everyone's life becomes better. Okay, facts don't care about feelings, but at the same time, men want to understand feelings so that they can, understand the facts about women. So anyway, still, as a man, I could, if I wanted to, portray what I'm doing as work and thus claim for myself the prestige men traditionally derive from work. Whenever I tell someone I stay at home with the kids, they invariably say, hardest work in the world. And that's what I've said in the past as well, that this is the hardest work in the world, yes, but it's also the most, it's the most important work in the world. And in my opinion, women are the best at it. Men suck at being house husbands. Women are amazing at it if they have the collaboration of others in the home. So those people say this because the only way to account for a man at home with the kids is to say what he's doing is hard work. And they're also just being, people skilled about it. In their head, they're like, oh man, I could never do that. Which a lot of masculine women think when feminine women say, I'm a stay-at-home mother, then they're like, in their head, oh, it's hardest work there is. But in their head, they're like, yeah, I could never do that. Okay, but there's a subtext in the compliment that makes it backhanded. We both know no one ever says it to a woman. Mothers care, fathers provide care. The difference is crucial. Despite my total withdrawal from the economy and the traditional sources of masculine identity, total withdrawal, I can still argue I am a provider. I provide care. Okay, that's BS. He doesn't provide anything. He's being a babysitter so that his wife can go out and do whatever it is that she wants. And being a babysitter, okay, that's great. You're taking care of kids, and hopefully you take care of them very well. But you are missing out, man, on happiness for yourself, but also your woman. She's not going to be happy long term. And that's what we're going to discuss. In this way, my masculine self-image was stretched out but not broken. Diaper bag notwithstanding, I was still a man. With a capital M, he says. It wasn't until my wife mentioned one evening that she'd kissed another man and liked it and want to do it more than kiss next time that I realized how my status as a man depended on a single fact. that my wife effed only me. When people ask how it started, I say this: we married young. She'd had sex before me, but only with a handful of people a handful of times. She never had a boyfriend, never had a lover. She obviously had multiple lovers, but never had one consistently over a long period of time. By her mid-30s, this is when it gets interesting, right? Mid-30s. This is the time that women begin to I hate my life. Like, I don't want to be in the home anymore, and I don't want to take care of kids anymore, and I want something more for myself. Okay, they begin to demand things because it's at the end of their fertility years. It's at the end of them being beautiful. And so now they're like, I want to have sex with someone else. I want to have sex with someone else because it's screaming at them. Okay, this is what happens in their 30s in monogamy. You in your 20s as a girl, if you think monogamy is the right thing for you, eventually you will feel so drained that in your 30s you might begin to think the same things. And you'll be like, no, I'm committed. I'm committed. I'm committed. As a woman, you'll be drawn towards the things you cannot have always. Okay? And your body will be driven towards it. This is what happens in monogamy. Women are made to become masculine and men become feminine. Why? Because we're hybrids. You as a woman try to spend a lot of time with your husband because that's what couples do, you know. If you're not at work, you spend time together. And so you spend a lot of time together. The woman becomes more and more masculine because she's together with the man, right? So she becomes a hybrid. And then a man becomes more and more of a woman because he's spending time with the woman. So you get hybrids. That's what I call it on my channel. I don't think anyone else is calling it that, but it's a problem because masculinity is polygamous by nature, meaning desires multiple partners, but desires for the opposite sex to be monogamous towards him or her. Interesting how that works, isn't it? While femininity is being completely monogamous to one's partner and of the opposite gender. So, if we understand this, we understand what's happening to her right now. By her mid-30s, having already had our children and entering her sexual prime. Her sexual prime? Like, are you kidding me? Sexual prime for women is when she becomes fertile. Okay? If she will be in her sexual prime for the rest of her life. Women don't change when it comes to that. It's only her environment that changes. Okay, women shouldn't start lifelong commitments or having sex with anyone before the age of 18 once they're in a lifelong commitment with their man of their choice. Okay, that's what we teach on this channel. If you disagree, I don't care. The whole point is that's the best for their mental health and their stability and their emotions for the rest of their lives. Okay, it's good for their hormones. But what is happening here is that this woman enters her sexual prime because it was an exponential growth curve of her sexuality being taken away from her. Her 20s didn't experience sexuality because she entered into monogamy when she was young. And monogamy destroys sexual desire for women in such a way that she doesn't feel it anymore unless she looks outside of her relationship. And if she keeps going towards that direction and her man encourages her to do so because this is the first time in his life that he's beginning to see that his woman is actually, she actually is sexual. She actually does have those emotions because in her relationship with him, she didn't have it at all. Right? And now that the man is finally beginning to see the woman, blossoming like a flower because she's interested in sexuality and, this is exciting and blah, blah, blah. The man is like, go for it. Okay? This is exciting for you. I'm excited for you. And he, in some sick way, also enjoys it because he's feminine. Okay? And he wants other people to have pleasure. So it's sick. But this is the direction that the world is going in, where it's a feminine, it's a feminist ideology, okay? Not feminine, because if a woman is truly feminine, she wouldn't believe in this stuff. And most of you guys are feminine if you've, been part of my channel for a while. But A feminist ideology is that women should take back their power and they should be superior to men because they've been superior to men continuously for a long period of time. It really isn't about equality. It's about escalating things. It's taking things to the next level and truly being superior to men, because that's what happens naturally the more you use feminism in your life. Women become superior. They have more important work. But then they leave the most important work in the home and they don't want to have any part of it. And then they go out and begin to do the things that men do, but they do it very unsuccessfully because it's only going to last for a very short period of time. Why? Because she's losing it. She's in her mid-30s and her beauty is disappearing. Okay? This is why she is itching to get out there. And for a few years now, it's gonna be working. And the man is gonna not mind that the woman is out sleeping around, and the woman is not going to mind it because she's still kind of pretty, but she's becoming masculine. With every sexual partner, she's becoming more masculine, more masculine, more masculine. Her health is going to deteriorate exponentially, and men are going to stop wanting to be with her. And if they don't stop, they will still be men. There's always men available to have sex with you. However, especially if you don't need to commit. Guys get sex without commitment. Ooh. The man is the only one losing here because he's committed to her and doesn't get anything, while at the same time is committed to her and has to provide for her and provide for the kids and all that stuff. It is so warped. This is the world we're entering into, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Let's see. She felt keenly her lack of sexual experience. So we're here. Happily for me, she was willing to talk about it. Okay, that's good. She's venting. And willing to ask if I'd be open to exploring other options. We opened a bottle of wine and started talking and talking and talking. So, good on him for listening to the woman, but he followed her to the nth degree, and it's not rational what she presented to him. She didn't present it as an issue of feminism to me, but after much soul-searching about why the idea of my wife having sex with other men bothered me, it obviously did. Interesting. I came to a few conclusions. Monogamy meant I controlled her sexual expression. And not to get all women's studies major about it, patriarchal oppression essentially boils down to a man's fear that a woman with sexual agency is a woman he can't control. This is completely and utterly false, okay? Patriarchal oppression, yes, that's the thing of the past, okay? It still somewhat exists in some relationships, but in reality, patriarchal oppression was basically that men, yes, were feminine, okay? So they didn't understand their value, and they were afraid of the woman having sex with other men, and afraid that the woman would, do things that would ruin the family, basically. And so they would force women. They wouldn't try to understand them, they wouldn't try to listen to them, and they just forced the woman to do what the man wanted her to do. And that was how it was, and he had the money, and that's why he decides. Okay, very bad system in a sense. That's why feminism started, actually, at all. Feminism is a natural result of patriarchy done wrong, if that makes sense. And feminism has its good aspects because it's given women freedom so that we can understand them, and so that now that we can understand them, we can give them more of what they need and want for them to be emotionally fulfilled. So I'm happy feminism happened, but as we can see, feminism is completely taking people to the nth degree in the wrong direction. We've got to couple patriarchy together with feminism. That's when you get Three Girls in Love, where women are completely free to do whatever it is that they want, as long as they stay within a certain boundary, which is basically being faithful, being loyal. That's it. If they're loyal and they're obsessed with their man, which happens naturally in Three Girls in Love, then everyone's happy. And if you're happy and it's hard to get your man, it's a little bit hard. You can always get him, and you will always get him in Three Girls in Love, but it is somewhat difficult. And that's what makes the tension happen, and that's why there's sexual tension for the rest of their lives. That's why a woman will be in her sexual prime forever, okay? And not just have latent sexuality that's building up over time and making her burdened and masculine and want and desire other men, if that makes sense. Three Girls in Love is the only thing that solves this problem. Monogamy is not going to solve it. The woman controlling herself is not going to solve it, because a woman is not designed to control herself sexually. Okay? She goes with the flow. So in Three Girls in Love, that's taken care of because she can't control herself. She wants to be with her man. Okay? In Three Girls in Love, she naturally does not want anything to do with any other man. She only wants her man, and she's willing to share because femininity is sharing as well, which is what this man is doing. Let's see. We aren't afraid of their intellect or their spirit or their ability to bear children. We are afraid, he says we, are afraid that when it comes time for sex, they won't choose us. So that's what I was saying. A masculine man understands women. And if he understands women, he knows what women need in order for them to be emotionally fulfilled. This man is completely ignorant on the subject. A masculine man will not be afraid of his woman ever leaving him or ever having sex with another man because he knows what he's doing. That's what masculinity is. Coming to the nth degree of understanding, of exponential growth curve of knowledge and understanding the woman. If you don't understand the woman as a man, you're not masculine, right? So you got to understand femininity, masculinity, and if you don't, you're feminine, which is what this guy is. So he's afraid. A masculine man is not afraid because he knows what to do in order for her, for the woman to be fired up outside her brain all of the time about him and about the family. So a masculine man will know for sure that his woman will never, ever, ever divorce him because it's physically impossible because he has the knowledge that he has. If that makes sense. So there's no fear in a masculine man. There's fear in feminine men because they're not living according to truth. This petty fear has led us as a culture to place judgments on the entire spectrum of female sexual expression. If a woman likes sex, she's a whore and a slut. If she only likes sex with her husband or boyfriend, she's boring and lame. If she doesn't like sex at all, she's frigid and unfeeling. Every option is a trap. Unless it's Three Girls in Love. Okay. Men want their women to love sex. But they don't want their women to love sex with multiple men. No masculine man will respect that or desire it. Okay? A masculine man, it's part of his DNA to only have his women have sex with him. And that's completely understandable. That's how it is. That's why masculine women don't want to share their man. Because their nature is, that person is only having sex with me. That's it. I'm masculine. As a woman. Okay? That's how it is. So if you turn that over to masculinity as a man, this woman is only having sex with me. And I'm going to make sure that I understand the principles necessary for her to never, ever sleep with anyone else. Why? Why is that a big problem? Because of kids. Because of family. Because of loyalty. Because of making sure that we are actually evolving towards a better and better generation. So that the woman doesn't sleep with someone else and she gets pregnant. And if she gets pregnant, then he now has to provide for someone who is not his. We're designed in this way to not desire to provide for something that's not ours. It's selfish, but it's masculine. Okay? We don't want to provide for anyone else. We want to provide for that which belongs to us. And women, and we belong to women. Okay? It's not like, oh, this is my property. We as masculine men don't mind being the property of our 3 girls in love. I'd love to be the property of 3 girls in love. Okay? Because I'm going to give them everything that they desire. Always, for the rest of their lives. And I'm going to take care of my kids properly. So, that's masculinity. So yeah, but I agree with him. Like, very often, sex with her husband or boyfriend eventually, every time, becomes boring and lame. And they have to spice things up. And they have to use cosplay. And they have to do this and that and the other. No, nothing wrong with that. BDSM, all of that stuff, it's disgusting, really, what's happening because the woman, her sexual expression can't be used, and so she needs to do something, but she doesn't, if she's feminine, she doesn't want to sleep around with anyone else, but this burden of sexuality is driving her insane, so she ends up like, maybe I should, and no, but I don't want to, and I love him, so she's torn. A woman is torn when she's both feminine and masculine, she doesn't know what to do. If you as a woman if you're feminine, very often you'll know exactly what you want. And the more masculine you are, you'll know exactly what you want. If you are a hybrid, you'll have a hard time figuring out what you want. Let's keep going. Feminism always comes back to sex, even when we're talking about everything else. Absolutely, I agree. The point isn't that all women should be sexual adventurers. Celibacy is as valid an expression of sexuality as profligacy. Okay, interesting word. I think that all women are sexual creatures, and they're way more sexual creatures than men are. I've explained this before. Women are more sexual than men. Femininity is more sexual than men in general. That's why men who are feminine are very, very sexual, become very needy and desperate and all that stuff. It's disgusting. So femininity is highly sexual. Masculinity, on the other hand, is in season, when it's time, because he's got more important things to do. Okay? So if we understand that, then all women should be sexual adventurers, but only in Three Girls in Love and with the limited partners. Okay? Inside the home. Inside the home, there's protection. Inside the home, there's security. Inside the home, if there's a pregnancy, it's inside the home. You know, it's not with anyone else outside of the home, which makes it complicated. If there's STDs, you know, it's kept within the home, okay? If there's no STDs, fantastic. Then it's inside the home. Everyone's protected. So there's never any other issues that can happen outside there that confuses everyone. The point is that it should be women who choose, not men. Even the men they're married to. Okay? For my wife, the choice between honoring our vows and fulfilling her desires was a false choice, another trap. She knew how deep our love was and knew that her wanting a variety of sexual experiences as we traveled through life together would not diminish or disrupt that love. Okay, this is a good one. It took me about 6 months, many long, intense conversations, and an ocean of red wine before I knew it too. Perfect. Understand that the relationship that's between these two people is not love. It's friendship. So it's friend love. It's not sexual tension love, obviously. Or else she wouldn't be interested in anyone else. If the sex was good, she'd be freaking happy all of the time. Like if it was really good for the rest of her life. That's what Three Girls in Love gives you. Monogamy will not. It cannot by nature. So if we understand that aspect, that as a friend, you'll want what's best for your friend. But what gets disrupted is any form of attraction at all towards you as her husband. Okay, so that's the problem. Okay, the kids woke up, so I need to close their room, but I'll be right back in 10 seconds. Hold on. So, let's move on. So the love is going to be disrupted, but there's not even love between them anymore other than the friendship. So it's yes, they're going to be friends forever, blah, blah, blah. But will they? We'll find out. To be honest with you, this couple is still not, they're probably not together anymore. This was 5 years ago. If they are, they've had a lot of issues. Let's see. When my wife told me she wanted to open our marriage and take other lovers, she wasn't rejecting me, she was embracing herself. When I understood that, I finally became a feminist. That's a lie. She was massively rejecting him sexually. Okay? I'm not interested to you, none whatsoever. I need to sleep with someone else. That's what was going on. She was embracing herself in the sense of, yes, these are my emotions, I'm going to take care of them. So when you see masculine women feeling more fantastic once they embrace their masculinity, it's short term, but they now accept who they are. Instead of fighting against their masculinity because of burden, they're being burdened from something else, okay? And then they become masculine because of it, but they want to remain girls. They want to remain women, but all these burdens are causing them to become masculine. What ends up happening is that the moment that they embrace masculinity and become super women and become this, that, and the other and start fighting towards their dreams and goals and become more and more and more masculine, Temporarily, it works. Eventually, it's going to self-destruct. Okay, for them, it's going to get better before it gets massively worse. So it gets worse before it gets better also works in the opposite side of it gets better before it gets worse. If you're applying the wrong thing, like for example, if you take drugs, it gets better, before it gets exponentially worse. If you get drunk all the time, it gets better before it gets exponentially worse. Do you understand how this functions? She's embracing her masculinity of having sexual casual relationships with a lot of other guys. So she's embracing herself and accepting of herself and accepting of her emotion. In the beginning, it's going to work. But eventually, it's going to suffer. And it doesn't seem like they've been doing this for a very long time. And here we are. That was 2 years ago. Not going to last very long. Today, we've never been happier. More in tune, closer, tighter, stronger. Whatever power I surrendered, I don't miss. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but I tell everyone it works for us. Why are they happier? Because it's working right now. As the woman gets uglier and older and more masculine and her health begins to decline and no men are really interested in a 40-plus-year-old or 50-plus-year-old who just wants casual sexual relationships because they've got access to 30-year-olds, like the higher value man, in sense of what's attractive to a woman and him being emotionally stable and mentally stable and all that stuff. If a guy is in his 50s, he can get a girl that's in her 30s. Okay, that's very often what happens is that 40, 50-year-old guys want girls that are in their 30s. If she want a mentally stable guy who actually is loving and kind and all that stuff, as a 40-year-old, she'll begin to have to go to guys that are 60 plus, okay, and older and older. So basically, the lower value men she's going to face eventually. Always. So if you're in your 30s, you still find guys that are reasonably interested because you're still kind of beautiful in your 30s. In your 40s, it begins to exponentially decline. In your 50s, it's kind of like guys are like, yeah, she's okay, but she's going for a younger one. In 3 Girls in Love, this doesn't happen. In 3 Girls in Love, a man is committed to 3 women for life and is fired up, excited about it because they've built something together. And very often, if you've noticed, men don't often initiate divorce. Why is that? Because they enjoy consistency. They enjoy rationality. They enjoy family. They don't want to break anything up. So a man in 3 Girls in Love, he won't ever break that thing up. And he's going to do his best to keep it, harmonized. Okay, so let's check this out. How does it work? We take turns going out because we have small children, ages 6 and 3. One of us stays home. We don't like to use babysitters because it gives us a curfew. We'd rather go out unfettered than worry about turning into a pumpkin at midnight. Okay. Going out alone to hooking up with others was an easy transition. It does work both ways. And yes, I too enjoy sexual carte blanche. I just don't use mine as much as my wife uses hers. What's important is equality of opportunity, not outcome. Okay, so he does have sex with others. So what ends up happening is that he ends up basically doing the same thing and retaining some of his masculinity and attraction towards his woman. This is where it gets kind of weird because the woman is also interested in her man more because he is attractive to other women. Okay, but so he's developing his masculinity more, but it's still developing his femininity because he's taking a lot care of the kids, and being a house husband is not, obviously the woman is going to use her card more. But yeah. How does it feel? It feels great. Mostly. Most of the time it feels like a mature, responsible way to address our needs and desires within our loving, mutually supportive marriage. It feels very adult, especially because it depends on open, honest communication. We take great pride in all the talking we do. We meet a lot of people who say they'll never get married because they don't want to get divorced, and hearing it always makes me sad because they're cutting themselves off from the possibility of the magic that happens when 2 people share their lives. People don't divorce because they can't stand sharing anymore. They divorce because they feel like they can't share enough. What does that even mean? I don't know. I never forget that my wife is a whole person unto herself, a complete dynamic individual, and though we are together, we're not one. Why aren't you one? Too often people get trapped in the roles of husband and wife, and a gulf opens between what they think they should be and who they really are. Opening our marriage has allowed us to close that gap so that the person I call wife is the same person my wife sees in the mirror. Okay, I get that. I understand that, and that's why somewhat their relationship works, is because the man accepts the woman for who she is, and the wife is allowed to be who she is, and they can talk freely and openly and in that way. So, but from the dynamics, it's even if it does work out in the long run, eventually they're going to stop with doing this. Lying to each other begins with lying to yourself, and now we don't have to lie to anyone. That's good. There are, of course, moments of jealousy, resentment, and insecurity. Very often. Okay, yeah. Recently, my wife went on a date and fell asleep at his apartment. I hadn't heard from her since 10 p.m. and she still wasn't home at 6 a.m. What do you know? My texts went unanswered, my calls went to voicemail, a tight knot of dread lodged in my stomach as I imagined all kinds of dire scenarios and realized that I not only didn't know where she was, I had no idea whom she was with. That's a problem. I pictured myself going to the police saying, I think she's in Red Hook with a guy named Ryan. I don't know his last name, but I think he's a graphic designer. As a man, oh my gosh. I'm not sure there's actually a word of the unique blend of acute terror and unforgivable shame I felt that morning imagining that I'd lost my wife to Ryan, the maybe graphic designer. When she finally texted me at 7:30 a.m., relief coursed through me like morphine. She wrote, FFFF, I'm so sorry, fell asleep. I replied, just glad you're okay, but next time no radio silence. Remember, you're not alone. What surprises most people is when I tell them it's not the sex with the other men that bothers me. The sex is the easy part, the fun part. It's what the sex connects to, stands for, reveals that can be difficult. I don't want her to fall in love with anyone else, which will happen, by the way. It has to happen. Because the more feminine he becomes, okay, the more she will venture into, looking for someone else that can provide for her. However, having said that, she's losing her value consistently and continuously. Every single day, she has sex with another man. As her partner counts increases, her mental stability will decrease, and no rational man will want to take care of her issues and her having kids and all of this past that she has, which means that she probably will not be able to find any other man to take care of her than the guy that she's with. And this guy sucks. Like, he's feminine as hell. And he accepts the feminist ideology to such an extent that eventually he'll become so feminine that he becomes disgusting for his wife to be around. This is nature, and it happens naturally over time. And it's working right now for a time, but it's not going to work in the long run. And yeah, so let's see. He doesn't want the wife to fall in love with anyone else. And every time she goes on a date, I confront the possibility that she might. It happened at the beginning. The first person she dated after we opened up fell hard in love with her, which is what happens when you have sex for a man, and my wife, overwhelmed by his ardor, tried to love him back. Watching it happen, I was confused, angry, and terrified what she wanted to leave me. She assured me she didn't, and whatever feelings she had for him didn't lessen what she felt for me. Because she's masculine. She kinda is able to love more than one person. No, she's designed for 3 girls in love. She's designed to love one person passionately and excitedly, and then to kind of be friends with other people in her household. 3 girls in love. They're living a lesbian relationship. They have lesbian deathbed between them. And so the woman has to go out and get her man. And she's driven towards finding that man. And the man is stuck in the home, and basically he's allowed to have sex with others, but he doesn't want to because he's feminine. Have you noticed? Like, the more feminine he is, the more he'll only want to be monogamous with her. So she assured me she didn't, and whatever feeling she had for him didn't lessen what she felt for me. Believing her then was the ultimate trust exercise. Okay, so he's disciplining himself to trust. We survived because eventually I did believe her, and also because I learned to trust myself. This has been... Man, how long is this article? Okay, it's almost done. This has been the great challenge of my open marriage, to draw strength from vulnerability. Being a girl. Doing so requires supreme self-confidence. You must first really truly love yourself. It is the foundation upon which all the other love is built. From everywhere comes the message that what I'm doing is for weaklings, losers, failures, pussies, that if I had money and status, I could keep my wife in line, that her self-discovery comes at the expense of my self-esteem. My open marriage has made heavy demands on my ability to silence the voice of doubt in my head, that gnawing feeling of worthlessness. It's what happens. He becomes a girl, and he has to strive for masculinity in being a girl. So he's disciplining himself to be a woman. It's not going to end well, because eventually he's not going to have discipline, because the more femininity controls themselves, the less they're able to control themselves. These people fight a lot, because he's also having sex with other women, which means that he's more masculine because of it, and she's masculine, and then they fight, and then they have issues, and then he becomes feminine again because he accepts her how she is, etc. But I find I can meet those demands, and that I'm able to build my self-confidence out of nothing more than the basic dignity we all possess. I'm grateful to my wife for pushing us to take this leap, and whatever happens to us in the future, I would do it all again. And when she comes home tonight and crawls into bed beside me with a hot story about her date with Paolo, she'll do it all again too. So, yeah, I just want to explain to you guys, this is the future. People are more and more going to see that polyamory is working for them. And I just want to explain to you just the last few minutes here why it's working. The reason why it's working temporarily, it's never going to work in the long run and in the big scheme of things. Ever. It doesn't work like that. So, let me just take this off so you guys don't get distracted. Let's see. So, what I'm saying is that the only reason why it's going to work is because the woman is beautiful and fertile, and other men are excited to be with her. Other mentally stable men that have, that can kind of control themselves a little bit, okay? The more she's with guys that are feminine and low value in the future, as a woman, the less she's going to want to be with those guys. But she might still need it because that's what she's gotten. She's gotten new all of the time. She needs strangers in order for now her sexuality to thrive. So eventually, once she becomes older, more masculine, and uglier, unfortunately, that's the fate, then no guy is going to be interested in her anymore. She's going to be stuck with this guy and all of the memories and the comparison of what she had in the past that she cannot have anymore. So everyone who promotes polyamory to you, look at them and figure out, do they have options that I don't have? Are they more beautiful? Is it working because she's pretty right now? Is it working because, there's no kids? Is it because kids create a lot of extra issues with all of this? Really, that's the biggest problem. Why polyamory doesn't work is because it's not good for the kids. Do you really want the kids to grow up knowing that the mother is sleeping around with a bunch of other men and they don't know who's who and what's what, and is this even my father? And they'll see the man that, is supposed to be the strong and powerful man. Like, what would happen if there was a war, guys? What would happen if there was a massive financial crisis? She would dump his ass so fast because he's feminine and he's scared and this is how it functions. The more we follow nature and live according to nature, the better life is going to be for everyone around us. There's a reason why polyamory doesn't work for the majority of people. It works for a few in the same way that monogamy works for a few. Okay? And then you look at them and you're like, man, but I kind of want what they have because, it's kind of working for them and it's actually very good. And this guy with 3 Girls in Love, there's no examples of it ever working with anyone. Well, this is the beginning of the 3 Girls in Love movement. Of course, you're not going to see anyone succeeding with 3 Girls in Love. One, because government has made it illegal to actually marry, so you have to cohabit in order for it to be working. And this is new. It's fresh from the printing press. Okay, it's developed. It's not even developed. It is what it is. And then we discovered it, and we found out that this is how women function, this is how men function, and this is what brings them together in a perfect harmonized manner in a way that women can luxuriously live out all of their dreams and goals and be fired up outside their brain for their entire lives. If they're with their best friends forever and they find a man who's trustworthy, honorable, and has received the stamp of approval and has the finances to actually handle this kind of union. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any articles or any YouTube videos that you want me to talk about, let's get right into it, because, man, I'm fired up about this channel. I'm excited to keep moving forward with it, and hope you guys have a fantastic day. See you.